first, live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
Hello everyone, this is Fox 12 Now. I'm Greg Nibbler. That is a live shot up at Skee Ball right now with our Skee Bowl camera. As you can see, it's snowing. The snow has started up in the mountains. This is our first big snow, I think, that's coming through right now. So pretty exciting for a lot of people. Again, this is Fox 12 Now. We live stream here from the Fox 12 Oregon newsroom every weekday starting at 1 p.m. Pacific. We're on our apps, we're on our social media channels, we're on our website. Lots of places to find us. As you can see, always activity going on here in the newsroom. But we get to have some great conversations here as part of this, including talking about things that are really important for staying safe. You know, with this snow coming on, there's a lot of people that like to get up there to the mountain, whether it's going skiing, climbing, hiking. A lot of fun to be had up there, but also, let's be honest, there's a lot of danger too. It's important to stay safe. It's important to prepare right. It's important to know what to do once you're up there. And in the event of an emergency, what do you do? It's better to know now than later, and that is why I'm really excited that we have our guest right now from Portland Mountain Rescue. We have Mark Montford. Mark, thank you very much for joining us today to talk about this. You know, I love getting up to the mountains, but there are dangers out there. There's important things that people need to know about. But to start off, could you maybe tell everybody about your organization and just what it is?
So first, Greg, thanks for inviting Portland Mountain Rescue to talk today. And just like you, man, I'm jonesing for some snow. Let's get on the mountain and get out. I'm a rescuer with Portland Mountain Rescue. We're a volunteer search and rescue organization that's accredited by the Mountain Rescue Association to do high alpine rescues and high angle rescues. So most of our work is up on Mount Hood or in the cliffs in the gorge.
And that's a wide range of area there that you just mentioned.
Oh, sure.
That's a huge territory to cover of rescues. And so you cover all of that.
We do. We report directly to the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office, and we also work under mutual aid agreements with the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office, Hood River, and even over in Washington. So we're called out when there's a specific need that fits our expertise.
And, you know, something that I brought up there earlier, you know, a lot of people going out to enjoy it, and a lot of times there's never any issues, but things do happen. And I think no matter what, when you're going up there, I would imagine it's important to plan ahead. And if you could you walk us through maybe some of the things that people need to plan on and just think about before they rush up there to get out there into the snow?
Yeah, so we have a motto, PMR, it's know your route, know the conditions, be prepared, and have a backup plan. And it's really about that simple. You know, think ahead. What's your objective for the day? What are you really out to go do? And then make sure that you've looked at maps and understand what the terrain's going to be like. Know the conditions, particularly now that we're getting into the part of the year where there's snow and skiing. Understanding the snow conditions, the weather, and more particularly understanding the avalanche risk. You can go to the Northwest Avalanche Center's website and they'll tell you right there, hey, it's high risk today. Let's stay on low angle terrain. And then, of course, being prepared is being prepared to stay out overnight. That's probably the biggest one anytime you're venturing away from the resorts and into the backcountry.
Yeah, and I think that's probably, you know, it's easy to get excited. It's easy to want to rush up there and just think about the day, but should something happen, to be prepared for staying overnight. Before we even ask that, though, I wanted to go back and ask you one thing. You mentioned it's important to know the maps, to study that, to know where you're going and know what you're doing. For a lot of people now, that's just looking at your phone. Phone service may not work up there. What do you recommend for people to do as far as knowing the terrain and the areas that they're going into?
Well, first, I just want to acknowledge what you just said, and that is most of us look at our phone. I'm included. And the key there is to know how to use your phone as a navigation device. And as you said, you may not have cell service where you're going, so it's important that you have an app on your phone that allows you to cache maps, download the maps, put them on your phone. Then you can call them up even when you don't have service. And then, of course, there's the big one, that's battery life. It's important to have a backup battery. It's also important to just use your phone when you actually need it. If you've got the maps cached, put your phone on airplane mode when you're in the backcountry. You use almost no battery at all in that mode.
Yeah, it's definitely a good idea on that. And I think that's probably something, from people that I've talked to may not realize that you can cache those maps and download those maps. So download all of it, ahead of time. That way you have that on there. Going to the next thing you mentioned, which is being prepared to stay the night. So how should people prepare for that? And should they do that when it's just whether they're hiking, whether they're climbing, whether they're skiing, and going away from resorts, or what I guess goes into planning for that?
So there's this saying that of threes, that you can last 3 weeks without food, you can last 3 days without water, but in harsh conditions, you're only going to make it about 3 hours without some warmth, without some shelter. And that just starts with what you wear, making sure that you've got gear that protect you from the wind, protect you from precipitation, and you've got insulating layers to slip on. In many weather conditions, that's enough right there. If you've got good insulating clothing and something that protects you from the rain, you're going to make it through the night okay. If you're going into more extreme conditions or the weather might be pretty bad, it's great to have a small, lightweight tarp in your pack. Or I carry a little, lightweight bivy sack that's you just slip in it and it covers you like a cocoon, and that's enough to get you through the night right there. So those things, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I bet that's probably pretty lightweight too.
Oh yeah, I mean the bivy sack that I carry probably weighs less than I'm sure it's less than a pound. It's probably half a pound, but it's good protection. It's great to have something that'll insulate you from the ground. If you've got a pack, you can sit on that. That'll insulate you from the ground. But many of us carry a small little egg crate pad to sit on, or even one that's long enough you could kind of curl up on it. That's great just for lunch stops, right? So none of this stuff is just for emergencies. It's things that you can use on any hike that aren't gonna cost you a lot of weight. Having some food is super nice. Even if it's just some gorp, something you can snack on to keep your energy up. Low blood sugar is a big deal when things are going bad for you out on the trail, or away from the trail. All of a sudden your blood sugar crashes, you start getting cold, you're hypothermic, your judgment goes down. So it's great to have some calories. I always have some extra calories in my pack. Actually, my wife checks my pack before I go out. Do you have food? And some way to have water. You're going to carry some water, of course, anytime you're hiking, but it's super great to have some sort of little filter, or if you're going into snow, have a small stove that you can use to melt some snow. Just getting some warm water in you when you're stuck out in the snow, man, that'll really improve your odds.
And all those are things that you can plan ahead on, pack in, and just have them there just in case. Check your pack, but then know that that's there just should that need arise. And I would imagine, just going back to that taking up too much room, I'm sure that with good equipment, it doesn't take up much room and probably doesn't weigh much, and it's just something that will be nice to have.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, when I mentioned something like a stove, shoot, all over YouTube, you can find videos that show you how to make a tiny little stove out of a soda pop can. And you burn alcohol fuel in it, so you can, repurpose one of those bourbon flasks that's sitting in the back of your liquor cabinet and fill it full of just plain old rubbing alcohol in one of these tiny little stoves. Gosh, the weight penalty there, 6 ounces maybe, and it can just live in the bottom of your pack, and it's ready for that time when you really need it.
That's a great idea. I didn't even think about that, using a flask for something like that. What are the most common mistakes that people make when they head out into the mountains during the winter?
I'd say the most common factor that shows up in so many of our rescue missions, it's all judgment, but it's the our tendency to keep going even when something's going wrong, to keep heading up the mountain, to keep heading down the trail. I'm not sure this is the right trail, but I'm just going to keep going a little further, see what happens. Oh, wow, now I'm not really on a trail. Or I'm getting cold, but I think I'll just keep going some more. And pretty soon you find out you're too cold to use your fingers to get your gloves on or to zip up your jacket. I think that's the biggest one, is people don't stop whenever things are beginning to go badly. If you just stop for a minute, slip on an extra layer, have some calories, drink some water, think about, hey, what's really happening here? Is the weather turning bad on me? Am I not as in good a shape as I thought I was? Am I positive I'm on the right trail? I think that's the biggest thing you can take with you to the backcountry that'll keep you safer, is just the willingness to stop and think. Just talk to your buddy or talk to your dog or whoever's with you and think about, hey, what do I need to do here to get things settled so that I feel good about it again?
In that kind of situation, because I've certainly been there myself, where it's like, well, I'm just going to keep going. That if I just keep going, we'll get over that. That's something to do. Is it better to, you mentioned stop, think about it. Is it better to turn around and go back the way you came, or to sit in place? Like, what do you do in that situation? Or I imagine it depends a little bit, but what's the right answer there?
Well, I think you're talking a little bit, Greg, about being disoriented, being lost, the L word, I'm lost. And if you're, if you're not sure where you are, what we always say is, again, stop. All right, collect your thoughts, look around. If I look back, can I see where I've come from? Or, is it muddy? Do I have tracks in the ground? Is there a trail? Can I go back the way I came? So you asked the obvious question, should I go back the way I came? Heck yeah, unless there's something dangerous about the way you came that makes you feel like it's not safe to go back that way. Yeah, you're always going to want to try to retrace your steps. If you're truly disoriented and it's not obvious to you how to go backwards, now let's again stop, think about it. Let's be methodical. All right, I'm going to go 100 feet in 8 different directions around the compass. And how am I going to do that without getting further lost? Well, I can set my pack right here, hanging on a tree where I can see it 100 feet away, right? And I go back, I start heading out in a straight line towards a landmark, a tree, a bush. I keep looking back to make sure I can see my pack. I don't find what I'm looking for. I go back to my pack. I go in another direction, do the same thing over and over. Just be calm and methodical. And know that whatever the situation is, you're going to improve it just by gathering information, as long as you can do that without getting further lost. That's what's a good start. And I think almost always, if you do that soon enough, you're going to find yourself. You're going to find the trail. You're going to remember where you were before.
So it really comes down to, if you start feeling confused, or you're not sure about where you are, or you're not sure about where you're going, just stop. That's what I'm picking up.
Oh yeah, stop and think. And I'm always looking at this like if I'm alone, but often you're with somebody else. And I think when you're with somebody else, it's even more important to be adamant about stopping. You may be embarrassed to say to your partner, hey, I don't know where we are. I think we should stop. No, don't be embarrassed. You need to say it. Nobody's going to think less of you because you decided to take that precaution. Yeah.
Stop. It seems really simple. And that's why it's good to talk about it now, not when you're up there and don't realize what's going on, but to have that as a mind frame of, should something happen, stop, think, have a snack, take a drink of water. All great advice and good to know ahead of time. So for you, for Portland Mountain Rescue, what is the situation where you get involved as far as going to find someone? What happens before you get involved?
Well, sure. I give you the process. It's pretty simple and kind of obvious once I say it. Again, we're deployed by the sheriff's office, and the sheriff's office decides that they need us when somebody in distress has called 911, or a friend or family member has reported somebody missing by calling 911. So it always starts with a call to 911. Don't ever try to call a rescue organization yourself. We're not going to respond. We'll simply tell you to call 911. So the 911 dispatcher gets the call. They are going to want to know where you are, and that's a really important thing to have at your fingertips when you make a 911 call. If possible, have your coordinates, which again, you can find on your phone right there in the Compass app that's there in almost all cell phones. Your coordinates are going to appear right there on the compass, just right at the bottom of that view. Give that to the 911 operator. You're going to tell them you're in the backcountry. So they're then going to call the sheriff's office. Your call will get referred to the search and rescue deputy that's on duty, and that deputy will decide what resources are needed. Are we going to use one of the large search and rescue organizations like Clackamas Search and Rescue that do so many of the rescues, or is it going to be a difficult high angle or high alpine mission? And they're going to call us. So we get called by the sheriff's office, and there are a few of us in Portland Mountain Rescue that take that call. We then send out an alert to our whole unit, and everybody's cell phone goes nuts. And the message to them says, hey, we need rescuers for a search near Illumination Saddle on Mount Hood. And immediately they'll, anybody that can pull away from their work, their family is healthy, they'll reply and say, yeah, I'll be there. And now it's kind of important. You ask about the process. I'm going to give you the most important thing to know about the process, and that's time. When you're in the backcountry, it took you time to get there from wherever it is you live. And it took you time to get your gear together to go and do that hike or that ski trip. The same is true for the rescuers. So, we're 15 minutes into the 911 call, probably before that search and rescue deputy has talked to a rescue leader at 911, and we've put out a call to our membership. Now those members got to go those rescuers got to grab their pack, make sure it's got the right gear in it for this mission, throw some food and water in it. They got to change clothes. They probably got to get home from work or wherever it is they are to go get that gear and then get in their vehicle. And in this case, Illumination Saddle, drive up to Timberline Lodge. Shoot, all of that in good traffic conditions is going to take 2 hours at a minimum. And so now we're 15 minutes for the 911 process, 2 hours to get rescuers on the mountain. Then we got to get enough rescuers. We got a team. We got to put together a plan. We don't just go running into the backcountry. You got a plan. And then we've got to start moving. So, we're probably not even hitting the trail or getting on a snowcat until 2.5 hours, 3 hours, probably 3 hours for the 911 call. And then from there, we got to get to you. However long it took you to get there, it's going to take us that long. So, add another hour, 2 hours. Illumination Saddle, add 2 hours. So we're 5 hours into your 911 call before rescuers in best case situation are going to get to you. That's a long time to be sitting there injured, lost, cold. If you don't have, as I said, if you're not prepared to stay out overnight. You need to recognize it's going to be a long time. I should make sure I get calories in me. Let's get all my layers on. Let's find a place where I can crawl in behind a rock and get out of the wind. It's going to be a while before I get a rescue. And if somebody's injured in your group, and that's why you need a rescue, one of the things that happens there is all the other members of the party, their adrenaline goes, and they're all about taking care of that injured friend. And about an hour later, they've got that friend stabilized. They got them warm in a sleeping bag. That'd be great. And all of a sudden, everybody's adrenaline craters. None of the people in that party have been drinking water. None of them eating. Players. Now we've got the whole group at risk of hypothermia. So it's really important in that situation that somebody in the party steps forward and says, hey, I need to be a leader here. I need to stand up and look back. What's really going on at this scene? How do I make sure everybody's going to stay safe for the next 5 or 8 hours? Hey, Jesse, don't you have a stove in your pack? Get that out and heat up some water for everybody. Hey, Alice, go around and get everybody's food. Let's see what food we've got. And let's make sure everybody gets food. And John, you've got a tarp in your pack, right? Why don't you just string that up? And, if you've done all that, everybody's going to be fine. Everybody's going to be fine. You're going to have a good story to tell, and somebody's broken arm's going to get fixed and healed, and it's all going to be great. If you don't do all that, it could snowball downhill.
Which is unfortunate because that does happen. But I mean, this is all great advice. This is what it goes back to, you saying, be prepared to stay the night. And I think that's probably, to me, that feels like something that a lot of people may not think about, especially if they're I'm just going for a day hike. I'll be back in a few hours. But things can happen. Things can change. Something else I wanted to ask, just in association with this. So, say you're out there, you get injured, or you find a safe place to stay still, you realize you're lost. What's the number one thing that people can do to help rescue organizations like yourself find them?
Well, I put it in 2 scenarios. The first one is, before I ever left home, I told somebody else where I was going, and I told them when I expect to be back. And I told them what I'd like them to do if I'm not back then, right? That's the great scenario, because you're not back, and your friend's going to say, oh, Mark said he'd be back by 4 o'clock. And he said, if I'm not back by dark, call 911 and tell them I went to the Ruckle Ridge Trail in the gorge. That's a great scenario, because now the sheriff's going to call us, and we're going to know where to go. We'll find Mark's car at the trailhead, and off we'll go up the trail, and we'll get him. We'll get him back. In that situation, it's good to just stay put. If you can't retrace your steps, don't get further lost. Try to do things that'll make it easy for us to spot you. Maybe you can see that you can move to a clearer area, or maybe you can move up a little higher where you can get cell phone coverage. If you are going to move, leave a trail. Start dropping your chewing gum wrappers. It's the only time that's okay, by the way, but drop your candy wrappers. Do something that helps you see where you've been and might help us find clues and find you. But try to be seen and try to stay generally where you are, so you're not getting deeper into trouble. And here's a big one. Don't start wandering down to the sound of the interstate when you're in the gorge, because you're gonna go over a cliff. All right, so that's when you've done the right thing, and you told your buddy where you're going to go, when you're going to be home, and what to do if you're not home then. If you don't have that, if you sit there thinking, geez, it's Friday afternoon, nobody knows I'm hiking, My family or my roommates aren't going to notice I'm gone because they're all out of town. And the first time anybody's going to miss me is Monday morning when I don't show up for work. That's not a scenario where you necessarily want to just stay put because nobody's looking for you. And if nobody's looking for you, you're on your own. You need to be found yourself. And I'll go back to what I said earlier, and that's okay. Start trying to find your trail and be methodical. Go around the spokes of a wheel, going out and seeing if you can find something familiar, a trail, a landmark. And that's what you're going to try to do. You may end up just simply having to pick a direction and sticking with that direction and just going as long as the train's safe. But also, maybe Greg, could I take a minute and talk about how to use a cell phone in that situation?
Yeah, what is the best way to use a cell phone when you're lost up in the woods like this or up on the mountain?
Well, the great scenario is you have two bars and you call 911, right? And that works a lot of places in the backcountry. And, use the gorge, for example. Some places in the gorge it works. But, just at Multnomah Falls, if you start hiking up that paved trail to the top of Multnomah Falls, as you start going inland towards the top of the falls, you're going to lose cell service. In fact, cell service is spotty down at the Multnomah Falls Lodge. So someplace like in the gorge where we've got all these canyons that go up and great places to hike, what you're going to want to do if you don't have cell service is see if you can get someplace where you're going to get more bars. Moving out of a canyon, moving up onto the top of a ridge, will almost always improve your reception. So those are good things to do. Back to battery, one thing that really runs down your battery is trying to make a call when you don't have service, when you've got one bar. Your phone works super hard reaching out to cell towers. If it can't do it, it just runs the battery and it just sucks battery life. So don't do that. Don't try to make calls repeatedly if your first call fails. Something you can do is send a text message. Texts take very little, it's a tiny little data package, and your phone will keep trying to send that data package several times, and may get a moment where it's got enough cell connection to get it out. So send that message to a trusted friend and tell them to call 911. There you go. You can't send a text message to 911 itself. Don't try that. It's not going to work. But send it to a friend and somebody that's in your contacts and tell them what you need. If you're not getting service, I suggest turning the phone off, completely off, relocate, and then turn it on again. Because even when you're not trying to make the call, your phone is still always trying to check. It's sampling signals to see if it can connect with some cell towers, and that's running down your battery. So, if I'm really lost, one of my highest priorities is going to be preserving battery life on the phone. That phone's super valuable to me and my chances of rescue.
Great advice. I mean, all of this has been really, really good things for everybody, I think, to think about before they head up. And like I mentioned, whether you're planning on a huge, backcountry backpacking trip, or you're just going for a day hike, you just want to go up there and enjoy it for a few hours. Important to know, because so many things can change, so many factors can come up, and being prepared like that, like you've just given everybody advice for, can improve your chances of being safe, improve your chances of being found, and in some cases improve your chances of survival in like the worst case situation. I mean, this sounds like really important things, and they're not huge things that people can do. It's not an overtaxing thing to prepare.
These aren't big steps. But you said, it improve your chances of being safe and rescued and all that. Also improve your chances of fun, right? Because if you feel prepared and you are prepared and when things aren't going quite right, you stop and think about how to improve it. You're just going to have more fun. And that's what it's about. That's why we go out there. We're out there to have a good time, right?
Right. Yep. And if you know that you have all that stuffed away in your backpack or whatever, you've got all the stuff you need. Yeah, alleviates that concern, that worry. You're right. That does make it a lot more fun. That is a good way to look at it as well. Well, for Mark, I really want to say I appreciate your time too in talking about this, because this stuff is really important. And for everybody out there, that likes to get out and enjoy the wilderness, and there's a lot of beautiful things on Mount Hood, a lot of great places to explore. And it's important, though, for people, especially if you haven't been out there much, to understand those dangers and how to be prepared for it. And you've helped us do that tremendously, which is what your organization does all the time. And I want to let people know, if you can, let everybody know where they can go to find more resources, more information, more understanding of all the things that we just talked about today.
Well, the internet's your friend. If what you want to do is really start getting in the backcountry, especially in the winter, backcountry skiing, maybe mountaineering, go hire a guide, or better yet, go join the Mazamas. It's a big organization. They've got an incredible education program. Super supportive for beginners, and plenty of opportunities for people that are advanced to really take their skills to another level. So I can't emphasize, joining an organization like the Mazamas enough. And the other one is join a hiking club. There are a bunch of great hiking clubs around town, and start asking around, and you'll find one. And there will be experienced hikers that like to do the same thing you do, and you'll go back to that fun part. You'll have more fun. Something I didn't mention earlier when we were talking about using your phone as a navigation device. A couple of really good apps out there. Gaia, G-I-A-I, Gaia, is a GPS app that's got super great map services in it that you can cache. How Topo is another one that allow you to cache maps. And those are things, just telling you what our rescuers use. So those are the two things we use the most. Great resources.
Fantastic. Well, Mark, thank you very much for
It's been
joining
fun.
me today. Yeah, really glad that you had time to do this and to get this information out to everybody. And thanks for doing what you do, and everybody at your organization, everybody out there who helps save people when they need it, and helps go out there and volunteers your time and efforts and resources to do that. So thank you, Mark. Thanks for being here on Fox 12 Now.
You bet. Thanks for having me. Get out there and have fun. Be safe.
Yep,
Thank you.
I definitely want to. And once again, everybody, there's that live shot right there of up at Ski Bowl. So that's our camera right there. As you can see, there's even some snow stuck on the lens. So it's coming down. Yeah, right. And for everybody who's watching right now, who's watching live, again, this is Fox 12 Now. So thanks for joining us. We live stream here every weekday starting at 1 p.m. Pacific, and then throughout the afternoon. If there's breaking news, I come to you with that as well. So also a great place to come for that. And always, wherever you're watching us right now, that's where you can find us. You can also share this segment, watch it again on our apps, on our YouTube channel, on the website. So lots of places to find it. Coming up here a little bit later today, I'm going to have DHM Research on to talk about some polls they conducted with Oregonians, talking about workplace, how people feel about the workplace. So there's a lot involved in that, and these are polls of everybody across any demographic, any geographic region. It's just Oregonians as a whole. So it's a good sampling just to understand what opinions are about that, just looking at data. So that's a good segment coming up. But we're going to sign off for right now. We're going to reset for other things. So come right back here. You'll get the notification when we go live. I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12 Now.